Pennsylvania school district has actually turned down a local businessman's offer to pay off student lunch debts, okay? And the reason this has a lot of people upset is because this same district actually recently, they made a lot of people angry after threatening parents over unpaid lunches. Specifically, we're talking about Wyoming Valley West School District, and it's kind of confusing to people who don't know how Pennsylvania operates, but that's an area in Pennsylvania called Wyoming Valley. And so this school district, they actually sent this letter. I want you to see it to parents. And in this letter, they say that parents, their kids could be recommended to be put in foster care if they don't pay off school lunch debts. And even just that, before I even get to the rest of it, you're a parent. This is horrifying.
This is the thing, there's many ways that schools approach parents, and a lot of times it's in a, hey, we need you type of way, even when it's something like this. So this was a bit startling, and it makes me wonder what their general interactions are with parents and certain kids already, because this was for people who maybe are listening or aren't watching, that letter had spaces in it open, so it's like a formatted letter to where you have to fill in the child's name, then fill in the amount that they owe, and then say they've been, what is it? They've been purchasing breakfast and or lunch at this school. So
this is cruel.
It's across the board and gets sent out just in general for this purpose of getting them to pay for whatever debts that there are on the school lunch. So this wasn't like a rogue intern. I like to use that term because whenever someone's tweets something, it's their rogue intern. This wasn't just some low level person that said, hey, let me put together a letter and start threatening parents. This was from the top.
Absolutely, and the district's lawyer actually defended the letter, saying that they hope that this would get parents' attention. But the thing is, and the problem here is that we're talking about, first of all, school lunches are generally not great. It's not something you would willingly go out and pay for. Yep. Also, generally in these situations, we're talking about people who are poor, people who can't afford it. And I think that what we see repeatedly in a lot of these situations is that there's a lack of compassion. Obviously, the district needs to recoup money. Obviously, school districts need money. They need to pay for these lunches, but kids need to eat. All kids deserve to eat. And if a parent can't afford to pay for their kids' lunch, the idea of threatening them to over a $2 lunch, it's horrifying. Or we've got kids that don't get to eat in other districts, kids that are embarrassed in other districts. This is horrible.
I went through the free lunch program as a kid.
Me too.
I remember what it was like.
Yeah.
And so then the brown paper bag lunches were like, oh, I envy that.
Yeah. And people who got like chicken strips or like juice or something like that, for sure. Yeah.
So those things, even when the parents do maybe go through the process of making sure that they're on the program, it's still not. There's still this hierarchy of which kids are on this and not. And that's just among kids. So I can understand when the 10-year-old is going and making fun of the fact the kid punched the card or checked the box instead of paying the $1.95 for lunch. That's kids. And we're gonna have to go ahead and fix that as they get older, make sure they understand the processes of life and society. But when you have the entire school district doing this, it's like, are they being run by children?
Right.
This is the cruelty that comes to another level.
Yeah, and so Todd Carmichael, the CEO of La Colombe Coffee Roaster, you guys have probably heard of La Colombe. He actually offered to pay off the more than $22,000 of debt for the students. And as I mentioned earlier, he got a no thanks. Here's what he wrote in an op-ed in the Wilkes-Barre Citizen's Voice about the response he got from the district. Okay, he said, on Monday, we talked to the school board president, Joseph Mazur, to determine the best way to transfer the funds in order to wipe the slate clean and restore dignity to the 1,000 families who received these threatening letters. Shockingly, Mr. Mazur turned us down. I can't explain or justify his actions. Let me be clear, we offered over $22,000 with no strings attached, and he said no. And then further, following up saying, Mr. Mazur, I am offering to pay this debt in full by saying no. You are not just shaming families who elected you, but you are placing this burden on Wyoming Valley West taxpayers, and that is completely unfair.
Okay, so I'm so glad he wrote it out this way and make sure that he knew the implications of what he was offering and then what the answer was. So a lot of times look for motivation behind whether or not someone really wants to pay the debt. Debt collectors call folks all the time.
Right.
And then so if they get their money, they get their money. They're like, okay, cool, we got our money. Because that's the point, to get your money back. So then who cares where it came from? It's money. It's the same currency no matter whose bank account it came from.
Exactly.
So in this case, when was it the superintendent or Joseph Mazur, the school board president, says, no, I don't want that money. I just want to threaten parents. So we see the motivations behind it. I want to threaten folks that I think are lesser than me. The degree to which people this isn't just our country, around the world, but let's focus on our country since this is in Pennsylvania, want to make sure that they have this stamp of I'm better than you over 1,000 families is more important than actually doing your job.
Right.
Somehow this became personal for you to say, you know what, no, I wanna illegally threaten parents and tell them their kid's gonna be taken away over whatever debt is there versus getting the money back. So you're just gonna turn down the donation, which actually is the money that you should have in your pocket already.
Right.
Your pride is that big. Your supremacy is that important to you.
The cruelty is the point. And just to make it clear, a rep from the county stepped in and made very clear that they in no way ever had taken a kid out of their home over unpaid school lunch debt, and they never will.
Here on The Damage Report, we talk a lot about the big banks and their ways of getting rich off the poor. They saturate the market, but there are other options. And I've got info on a socially and environmentally responsible financial institution that has no ATM fees, gives you cash back on every purchase. They even commit 10% of their earnings to charity. It's called Aspiration, and if you go to aspiration.com/TYT to sign up, you'll get these perks, and that's more money to spend or to save or to spend. Just treat yourself.